California Governor Gavin Newsom is now calling his city's homeless encampments unacceptable, which is odd since he's the guy who, made them acceptable, turning sidewalks into red carpet events for drug addicts, thieves, and unemployed CNN anchors. On Monday, he urged cities to ban the camps from sidewalks, parks, and other public areas. So after years of denying the problem, he's now pretending to fix it, which is like putting on a condom as you're leaving a whorehouse.
Greg Gutfeld just scorched Gavin Newsom's polished image, leaving behind nothing but smoke, arrogance, and a frozen grin that couldn't withstand the firestorm. In a takedown so fierce it rattled liberal strongholds, Gutfeld ripped through Newsom's hypocrisy, mocked his flimsy policies, and exposed him as a governor paralyzed under the blaze of a primetime monologue. This wasn't a playful roast, it was a political wrecking ball crashing through every wall, and Newsom never even saw it coming. Welcome to Gutfeld Completely Unleashed, where the truth doesn't just sting, it detonates.
So Newsom is fed up with tent cities, the crime, the urban decay? No, he's not mad about that stuff. He's mad you noticed. It's like a criminal telling a jury he's sorry he robbed 25 banks when he's just sorry he got caught on the 26th. Because this isn't some spontaneous crisis. It's a man-made disaster like Chernobyl or Fox and Friends.
It all began like any ordinary night on Gutfeld's stage. The bright lights blazing, a coffee mug in his hand, and that sly grin curling across his face like a blade waiting to strike. But this wasn't the routine banter, and it wasn't the usual blend of witty jokes or playful pokes. Tonight, Gutfeld was in full combat mode, and his target was none other than California's polished political prince, Gavin Newsom, the man with hair so perfect it campaigns harder than he does, who struts into press events as if every podium were his personal runway for a glossy magazine cover. Yet this time, that carefully staged glamour was about to be ripped apart under Gutfeld's merciless spotlight.
Took common sense as his high ground.
Right.
There's no place outside of it.
That's right.
And so they're stuck in this horrible, horrible place, much like you, Jamie, in your life. As California falls apart, it must remind you somewhat of your own personal life.
Yeah. Sometimes I look at footage of California and I go, oh, look how much better it is than my life.
If you're gripped by this takedown, hit subscribe, because standing in Gutfeld's line of fire was the ultimate billboard of progressive perfection, or at least the role Gavin Newsom loves to play. Beneath that glossy exterior, however, lies a mountain of failures stacked higher than unpaid tickets. And Gutfeld didn't just point them out, he obliterated them with the precision of a late-night comic fed up with hollow theatrics. He shredded Newsom's carefully polished image like a discarded Hollywood script, flashy, overhyped, and desperate for a rewrite. Let's rewind, because Newsom has coasted for years on his golden boy glow within the left, but Gutfeld was there to tear that glittering mask away and reveal the rot underneath.
Why do I keep bringing up Gavin? Well, other than my respect for his work in American Psycho, he's starting to distance himself from his party's worst ideas. Newsom, a guy who hates fossil fuels but could still bring down the price of gas by wringing out his hair, once proclaimed that his state would be a sanctuary to all who seek it. Then people actually came.
He flashes a smile worthy of a toothpaste ad, tosses out buzzwords like he's headlining a TED Talk, and struts as if California were a flawless paradise crafted by his own hands. But behind the staged briefings and glittering dinners lies a reality collapsing into chaos. And Greg Gutfeld wasn't about to let that fantasy slide. The moment he hit the stage, the energy shifted, and you could feel it in the air. No warm-up, no gentle landing, just a brutal wave of truth sharp enough to slice straight through Newsom's carefully guarded ego. Gutfeld made it clear that the polished act was nothing but a mask, and the illusion cracked wide open under the weight of his savage monologue.
You conflate order with authoritarianism, you get chaos and destruction. So if restoring order is evil, then the Dems are now the party of disorder. Turns out the only system they had was wokeism, and it rotted any basic principles the party had to begin with. Which is why, like Gavin himself, they're left looking at 2028's hopes going up in flames. And this time, No one is going to help them put it out.
Gutfeld tore away the glossy veneer and exposed the rot festering beneath as he painted a brutal picture of California, the so-called model that Newsome parades as proof of progress, now looking more like a state collapsing under its own weight. Streets have turned into sprawling tent cities, while taxes soar so high that Elon Musk practically sprouted wings and bolted for Texas. And when it came to crime, Gutfeld didn't even need exaggeration because the truth was already devastating. Smash and grabs turned storefronts into shattered glass displays. Carjackings became almost as common as ordering an Uber. And yet, through all the wreckage, Newsome still clings desperately to his golden fairy tale like a man refusing to admit the kingdom has already burned to the ground.
Problem is his track record, his performance as mayor, as lieutenant governor, and governor. And your analogies are great. I think mine are better. And just hold on. And here's why. He shows up at the fires and says, who the hell caused this? I'm going to crack down on the people responsible. He sees the homeless encampments blocking the sidewalks and said, you guys clean that up. He started it. He spent $3 billion to fix it. And his opening words in 2020 when it got the job is a disgrace. The richest state in the country and the richest nation of the world has a homeless problem. I will fix it. He spends $1 billion when it's not fixed. He blames the mayors, and he also forced the movie industry and Silicon Valley out of the best state in the country by high taxes. I've never seen someone such a bad performance, but yet I think he's the front runner to get the nomination for the Democratic Party.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. They got nobody else. Sherrod, welcome back.
Yet somehow, Newsome still found the audacity to lecture other states, preaching about morality, freedom, and leadership as if he were America's shining guide. But that's when Gutfeld turned the flames higher. This wasn't mere hypocrisy. It was theater polished to perfection, and Newsome was the overpaid actor stumbling through his own script. Gutfeld laid it bare, the governor wagging his finger at Florida over book bans, while students in his own state struggled to read at grade level, condemning Texas for abortion laws while his streets drowned in fentanyl, filth, and forgotten lives. The irony cracked so loudly the audience could feel it, laughter rising as Gutfeld sliced, not with rage, but with razor-sharp sarcasm that cut deeper than fury ever could. And then came the finale, Newsome's stage, his spotlight, his supposed moment to shine, shattered right before everyone's eyes.
So last week, Newsom said he hopes the conservative Supreme Court will overturn the current law that bans his state from removing out-of-control homeless encampments. Imagine that. Well, what did you expect, Gavin? That the sanctuary seekers were going to show up in Winnebagos? Once again, another example of a high-profile lib using his big mouth to write a check his ass can't cash. Last year, after the Texas Governor Abbott ordered that parents of transitioning children should face criminal investigation, Newsom then tweeted this: trans kids and their families should be celebrated, not targeted by the state. They are heroes. And so to fearful families in Texas right now, California's door is always open to you.
With that sly grin, Gutfeld painted a ruthless portrait. California's middle class was evaporating faster than a drop of water in the desert. Small businesses were shutting their doors for good, while Hollywood elites and Silicon Valley moguls sipped champagne behind their guarded gates. And through it all stood Gavin, still smiling, still perfectly groomed, as if the hardship around him were nothing more than set design for his next glossy campaign ad. But Gutfeld wasn't chasing easy laughs. He came armed with brutal truth, exposing that Newsome, for all his photo ops and polished sound bites, wasn't just flawed, he was driving families out of the state. People weren't leaving because they wanted to. They were fleeing because survival demanded it. Proud business owners packing up to escape a system that punished them simply for trying to endure. And even lifelong residents were left questioning in disbelief. How did California fall this far under his watch?
What do you think about Gavin Newsom? What's going on there?
I don't know. I don't know how they bump out Kamala out of VIP, put a white male in there and take her out. She's got too much of an ego to just step aside. Mm-hmm. She's going to go crazy if they try to do that.
Plus, she had a strong 2% support, so don't forget that.
Yeah, but she's waiting for that spot to just open for her, and then you put a white male in there.
Yeah.
I don't know how they're going to put. I mean, they did it to Bernie. They threw him under the bus two presidential ones in a row. They just gave him a couple extra houses in Vermont. Go, yeah, you got some extra money. But I don't know how they could do it with her.
Yeah, it'd be great if they threw her under the bus because she really likes buses. Remember?
And Gutfeld, never breaking his stride, locked his sights on the man steering California's sinking ship, stripping away the illusions like a magician's trick, unraveling in reverse until every polished detail crumbled piece by piece. The economic growth Newsom bragged about was nothing but smoke and mirrors, his climate leadership reduced to hollow gestures wrapped in solar panels and flashy press conferences, and even his compassion revealed as nothing more than a staged performance that faded the second cameras turned off. Then came the strike that cut sharper than rage itself. Gutfeld compared Newsom's California to a mansion gleaming with spotless windows and manicured lawns. But step inside and the walls reeked of mold, the foundation cracked, and the roof leaking despair. It was a glittering shell masking decay, a house held up by slogans and catchy lines, collapsing under the weight of its own failures. And in that moment, Gutfeld declared it for what it truly was. Gavin Newsom's California, a dazzling disaster wrapped in progressive paper. The audience gasped, then laughed, not because he exaggerated, but because he finally said aloud what so many already knew. California wasn't a beacon, it was a warning.
Californians used to sell maps of celebrity homes, not landmines. Now, instead of sightseeing, tourists play hopscotch so their shoes don't get hepatitis. And when residents complain, they're called cruel. And now we're supposed to believe Gavin? Hell no. All the problems of the last decade were based on his and his party's lies.
The audience wasn't laughing at a punchline. They were laughing because the truth hit so hard it needed no exaggeration, and Gutfeld delivered it with the precision of a scalpel. Meanwhile, Gavin, whether lounging in plush hotels or posing at velvet-draped podiums, likely flashed that polished grin convinced no late-night host could ever rattle him. But he was wrong. Dead wrong. Gutfeld didn't just dent the armor, he split it wide open and marched through the ruins, turning a comedy bit into full-blown demolition. And from the rubble rose an even more chilling thought, Newsom's whispers of presidential ambition. This wasn't just hypocrisy, and it wasn't just incompetence. It was the brazen plan to export California's chaos across the nation. A nightmare Gutfeld made clear could not go unchallenged. If California was the experiment, then Newsom was the lab-coated mad scientist, and America was his next test subject. A thought so chilling it left the crowd stunned, while Gutfeld stood firm, refusing to let the disaster go unchecked.
Then came the national polling by overwhelming majorities. It turns out Americans don't favor minors transitioning. So last week, when a California law was proposed that judges in custody cases favor the parent who supports transitioning a child's new gender, Newsom killed that law quicker than a late-term abortion. Yeah, I know, huh? Now, the left, being the left, was outraged, but they missed something, because now Newsom says he only vetoed it since it's already the law.
Gutfeld wasn't about to let Newsom slip away. He wrapped it all up with a deadpan mic drop only he could deliver. A sly smirk, a slow sip from his mug, and a piercing glance into the camera that screamed loud and clear, "I see you, Gavin, and no amount of gel can hide this disaster." What made the takedown unforgettable wasn't just the laughs, but the brutal precision, the sting of undeniable truth, the way Gutfeld dismantled the glowing myth of Gavin Newsom with nothing but wit and cold, hard facts. No theatrics, no shouting, no desk pounding, just sarcasm sharpened into a scalpel that sliced effortlessly as reality did the rest. And that's what made it devastating. He dragged his audience straight into San Francisco's wasteland, where billionaires stepped over human waste on their way to dinner, and businesses didn't close from competition, but from the collapse of law and order itself. Every detail slammed into the room, served with that sly grin until the image became undeniable. Gavin Newsom's California isn't a model, it's a neon warning sign flashing danger for the whole nation to see.
Gavin ponders why Dems lost.
We lost the popular vote and we lost the electoral vote. We got crushed. And we need to be humble about that, and we need to have some grace, and we need to understand why. Was it because of the incumbency penalty? Was it because of inflation? Was it because of interest rates? Was it because of immigration? Was it because we were too, quote unquote, woke? Was it because of issues with Israel? Was it all of the above? I think we are going through that forensic. We need to understand it. At the same time, we also have to push back against the whitewaters and headwinds of the Trump administration.
To voters, he's the classic wolf hiding behind a thick coat of hair gel, and Gutfeld zeroed in on that hypocrisy with razor precision, exposing how Newsom imposed masks, lockdowns, and shuttered schools, churches, and small businesses, all while he himself wined and dined maskless at the French Laundry, clinking glasses with the elite as if the rules were reserved only for the little people. Gutfeld didn't need to shout. He leaned into the absurdity, letting the audience erupt in laughter at the injustice. And the punchlines landed with force, not because they were jokes, but because they were undeniable truths everyone already knew but few dared to speak. Then came the image of families fleeing California in droves, desperate for states where leaders didn't treat them like burdens, a sobering migration born out of failed leadership and twisted priorities. And the brilliance of Gutfeld's strike was that it wasn't just about the facts, it was about how effortlessly he stripped away Newsom's polished mask, exposing the hollow figure hiding behind the act, and he did it all without breaking a sweat.
Voters. He's the classic wolf in sheep's hair gel. Just watch him answer the tough questions.
Any other questions here?
Yes, Governor. California has a terrible homeless problem. Why do you think that is?
You know, I appreciate that question, and I think it's a matter of perspective. Let's kind of flip the script on that, okay? Let's kind of put a new lens on that. I mean, you see a homeless man, I see an outdoorsman. We got a lot of natural habitat in this state, and I'm just so proud that so many people in California can take advantage of that. All right, next question.
He exposed a man who lives for the camera, who scolds entire states with a wagging finger, and who builds a national image out of scripted outrage and carefully rehearsed indignation. Gavin Newsom, the walking billboard for style over substance, wasn't spared for even a second. Behind the polish and glossy hair, Gutfeld revealed the raw truth. A political mannequin carved for headlines but too flimsy to stand when reality strikes. He leaned into the absurdity of Newsom's ambitions, the whispered rumors that this California prince had his eyes on the White House, and he shredded the very notion that a governor presiding over a collapsing state could possibly sell that same chaos to the rest of America. It was comedy goldmined with ruthless precision, every hit exposing a deeper crack, and what made it sting wasn't cruelty but clarity, the kind of clarity that cuts because it's undeniable. Every jab, every smirk, every perfectly timed pause carried the same devastating message. This wasn't leadership, it was branding, and that brand was collapsing under the crushing weight of its own lies in real time before millions of viewers. Gutfeld didn't need theatrics or shouting. He simply let reality swing the hammer, obliterating the carefully staged facade Newsom built for years, leaving him reeling in the wreckage. And in the end, Gutfeld emerged as the delivery man of truth, holding in one hand the spotlight and in the other the shattered remains of Gavin's image.